Okay, well now for the long-awaited event, my cousin, Mario Davila, was born in Reynosa, Tamaulipas. He lives in McAllen and has earned degrees from Western Illinois University and UTPA. Having worked 31 years combined in the military and public service, he currently engages in research and book projects on the areas of Northeast Mexico and South Texas. So without further ado, Mario Davila.
First of all, my thanks to the organization, Ms. Torres, Ms. Olson, Mr. Cantu for inviting me. More than anything, it's an honor for me to be given an invitation to present this topic. Quick question, is this mic on?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Do I need it?
No. No.
Okay, that's what I was checking. Okay, so basically, I prepared a little presentation. It's about, I'm going to say, an hour long. It's going to go for 2 30-minute stretches, and I guess we'll get right into it. The topic is the Libro de Matrimonios de Reynosa, or the Reynosa Marriages book, and with my little hashtag, shows I'm technology conscious. Okay, and the presentation outline, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, about researching Reynosa, little general history. I'm going to do an abbreviated section on that than what the slides show, but some important stuff that I considered. The main topic, which is the book, features, fun facts, demo, and then some projects that are in the works. I don't know what that means. The top part, that's a tribute to my French ancestry, of which I have none. So therefore, that's my best friend. Calling it a brief 2-hour intro. Of course, this whole presentation is about 45 minutes long. And here I am, born in Reynosa. I was raised in McAllen. As you heard, I was in the Army. I spent a fifth of my life in college. It's hard to believe, but yeah. I spent the majority of my professional time in the McAllen Fire Department. I married in McAllen. My beautiful wife was Martha. I have 2 college-age kids. My desk. It's official notice. Postponed until further notice. This is not a solicitation to make this happen. All right. So, okay. Might have to help me here a little bit more. We've got a quick time out to see if we can get this.
It's Adobe Reader.
Adobe
Like
Reader
logo.
function. May have to. Try that one. No, that can't be it. Maybe it'll stop recognizing this. In case there's a... Lift this a little bit. Might have to. No, that's what it was. It came out. It's not showing us this, right?
Anybody under 50 here?
Should have your
Under 50, you know what to do.
Let me get some more from the library.
So when it says copy of file, yes. Control L. Okay, I'll try to fast forward. If this happens again, I'm just going to continue going based on my notes. But here's where we left off. Question is often put to me as to why Reynosa? Why did you research Reynosa? And when I was out doing my family research, this is what I would typically encounter when I was at the library. It seemed like everything was in the libraries except...
Is it working? Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Everything seemed to be working. I mean, everything seemed to be available for Las Villas del Norte, as they became known. Here's Guerrero, Matamoros, Amargo, and almost every other topic that you can think of, every other city can be found in the public libraries and universities. And of course, Reynosa descendants are a huge part of what is now Northeast Mexico, of what is now South Texas, and really, we're all over the world now. The bottom part, I put Reynosa una flor de, cross that line and put marzo. The reason was is because they did an article in the McAllen Monitor and they quoted me as having said something about the Mayflower. And then I thought, well, it's not really our Mayflower because that was a completely different event. So I ended up calling it March flower because Reynosa was founded in March. That's why I put that. The resources for the book came from the underlined section there at the University of Texas. I have, it's not a secret, Pan Am hosts the images to where I compiled the book from. And Pan Am, therefore, is the #1 resource, and that's why I have an underline with a little 1 right here. I put an asterisk up here. That should be the #1 resource to research Reynosa. However, it's difficult to go to Reynosa, as everyone knows. And then I tried reaching out through different means to them, email, phone calls, people that knew people. I never got a response, so it's still an asterisk. I've also found materials, not necessarily for the book, at the University of Texas at Austin. That's my #2 place that I like. And #3, I like family research. The rest are important for developing family histories for people that live, mainly for people that live on where we live, South Texas. For this section, I'm calling it a quick history. And the purpose of depicting the arrowhead is to show that before any colonization efforts by anyone were done, of course, people already inhabited these lands in one form or another. So I don't think it's appropriate for us to not recognize that. And here, this is my way of recognizing it. The section about the general history, I try to condense it about what is traditionally put out there in terms of how this area was colonized. And I'm calling it a myth versus reality section. I have to qualify these statements by saying that this is my research, this is my opinion, this is my view based on the research. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with me, and this is not anything other than my interpretation. So one of the things that's commonly found is that Escandon, if you go to, backtrack, if you go to the official Tamaulipas website, they will tell you that Escandon left Querétaro with 2,000 settlers, 2,000 plus settlers. That's an example. Universities have that information, books have that information. A lot of people have bought off on that. Escandon leading, Moses leading the Egyptians out of, in a mass exodus. The next part is Little Santander is founded by Spaniards, another common theme that's pretty traditional. Escandon is recognized as the founder of Reynosa, which that's pretty non-controversial, right? These are tax credit in one way or another. That a lot of things that I've picked up are a lot of people say, well, we come from prestigious families. So, and the last thing that I have here is I'm calling it Southsiders. And there always seems to, at least in my experience, that people said, well, there was this side and there was that side. And people from Mexico are from that side. So that's what I mean by Southsiders. Regarding Querétaro, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. The original Reynosa family, based on the documents that are available that anyone can read in many different locations, were from el Nuevo Reino de León. It was the Nuevo Reino de León was here before Nuevo Santander. So the people from Nuevo Santander had to come from somewhere else, and this is where they came from. The other part that I kind of like is this part, which is newer to me because I'm finding documents, and I just explained this a little while ago, that in the 1951, when Reynosa was founded in 1949, in 1951, there's documents from witnesses that are saying, I've known this person since 17 years ago at this place. That's way before 1749. So, of course, we also know about is it the Chapas? Who was here in the ranches in the area? Chapas, Hinojosas. There's families that were here before Escandon. Probably ever heard of it. All right, so the Reynosa settlers were led by Carlos Cantú. He was elected and recognized and appointed as a captain by Escandon. And Carlos Cantú was from a Valle de Pilon, and I'll show a quick map of that in the future slide. I have the controller here, remember it? As, the part about the Spaniards being the colonists, I think it's more accurate to say that they were authorized by the Spanish Crown and the Viceroy and the Council of the Indies and all the institutions that were set up to make it possible. A lot of them were second and third generation families that had already been in Nuevo León. And if you follow the genealogy, of course you'll find out that not only were there Spanish people, there was Portuguese people, the original settlers of Nuevo León. And we find names like Giuseppe Cantú. Just the name Giuseppe kind of gives you a clue. And of course we have Chapas, which have a verified connection to what is now Italy, and a couple of Palazos is another. Just by the spelling of the name, if you see it in the documents, it tells you, hey, that's not Spanish. Something else is going on. And of course, here's the section that's often left out, is that a good percentage of the population was already coming in, having intermarried with the native peoples. And not only the native peoples, but when some of the native population was not plentiful for the purposes of the Spanish aim, well, they had to bring people from Africa. Or as is documented in Escandon's Entradas, they found what they believed to be a shipwreck of former African slaves off the coast that were living on an island here, not too far from where we're standing. This section I'm calling it Escandón, because as it turns out, it's been recognized, well, he didn't even go to Reynosa for the founding of Reynosa. Now he's given the credit because he was the man in charge, but it was kind of surprising because they have a monument of Escandón in a lot of different places, including the main plaza of Reynosa, and he wasn't even there. And you'll see the timeline here. It shows that Davila was founded on 5 March, followed by 14 March of Reynosa. But Escandón had already departed, going back south from the original route that he took to get up to the Rio Grande. And so he couldn't have been here. And when Escandón did reach Camargo, I again, this kind of goes against the Querétaro caravan theory. The people were already settled in, living in their jacales. Most recently, 14 March 2015, this is the Reynosa paper, and this section here is saying, well, Escandón wasn't here. So it's being now shown and recognized, okay, Escandón wasn't here, then who founded Reynosa? And according to the article, they're saying it was Carlos Cancún who did the ceremonial acts. And that's what, a lot of times when they say, who founded Reynosa, they mean like who conducted the ceremony that said, you are now Reynosa. Right? So, I put another little arrow, it's off the slide here, but Reynosa was actually across what is now Reynosa Diaz, which is a little east of what is Diaz Ordaz, but that was a little technicality that I noticed in the article. So who founded Reynosa? It wasn't Escandón. The people are saying it was Cancún, according to the Reynosa paper. I'm going to back up here if I can. According to this article, it says, if it wasn't, it says here, solo el arrojo de Carlos Cancún pudo fundar Reynosa. He said, if it was not for his determination, Escandón kind of took off on everyone. If it wasn't for Carlos Cancún, he was the man of the hour. That's what this article said. Escandón was charged with 38 counts of different things trying to remove him from duty. Now, he was a military leader. I'm proposing that if he was a military leader and he was given the charge of founding a settlement and he didn't do it, or he didn't leave the authority to do it, that's a serious charge. In the 38 charges, which I didn't memorize all of them, but he never got charged for such a thing. So I don't think he just left it to the whim of, well, if Carlos Cancún decides to do it, that's fine. Sure, let him take it on. He had to have delegated his authority. Now, there's a couple in the audience that know the answer that was coming, so no spoilers, please. Carlos Cancún, again, he was elected and appointed captain, and the captains did perform the ceremonies, but usually they were on the receiving side. They were on the kind of said, yes, I solemnly swear, and I take the land for the king, and someone else is saying, you do this for the king, right? So someone was in a better position than Carlos Cancún to be given Escandón's authority. Here it is. There's a man. This is an actual drawing. I think it's either from a dissertation or from a Tamaulipas archives book. And I just gave the biggest clue, didn't I? His family knows I got this cool attire. That's not his name. That's referring to his cape and his buccaneer cabin. I have some pajamas like that, by the way. So this, according to the author, was done in 1767, and here he is. That's the drawing. I'm going to go back and here's another little picture from Rio de San Juan. Rio de San Juan is where Camargo is located. So, how do we know this? Simón del Hierro, he was a priest who accompanied Escandón on his tour, and he kept a diary. He wrote a lot of stuff, including some stuff that got Escandón in trouble later. And I'm calling it a historic announcement. Information that is disputed at some other point at some other time, but the best information I have found is that the official founder of Reynosa was not Escandón, it was not Carlos Cancún, it was Ras Maria de Arco. The reason we know that is that Simón del Hierro wrote it, and it was additionally reported by this person right here, Rafael Cervantes Aguirre. And all of this information, which would be a secondary source, came from a book by Maria de Pilar Santos. Now, with the friendliness that Google provides, if you Google Rafael Cervantes Aguirre, something very concrete comes up. He was an archivist for the Zacatecan missionaries. You don't get much better connection to an official record than an archivist. So this is where the information comes from. And right here, thank you, insert thunderous audience applause here. I had to manufacture that. All right. I'm going to skip through this because I want to get to some other more important parts. Prestigious families, let's just say that there's a lot of records that say these people were poor, they were humble, they were looking for a better opportunity, and there was not a lot of, there's always exceptions. I'm not saying this was true for everybody, but for the most part, they were very poor and they were very humble. And I personally, as it goes here, I'm kind of honored and humbled to know that they went through all the things that they went through to be able to get to like where I happen to be standing today and where we happen to be enjoying this community here. So, a quick map from before as to where people were actually from. Reynosa proper, today, right here, the settlement was upriver a little bit. And the places that came from here, the Monterrey, and here's the set, according to Carlos Cantú in his testimony of 1757, he's saying, well, they're from Salinas Hidalgo, they're from Pesquería Grande, which is now Garcia, they were from Padeleta, and Montemorelos was Valle that belongs to this section here. This is where Carlos Cantú is from. And the line that belongs stretches all the way down here because Cantú family were granted through their own connection to the famous general explorer. They were given land grants that extended all the way up to what is now Teheran and China and places like that. And as far as the Southsiders, these are maps, and I have some on the display here at this table. Feel free to look at them. They're all from different sources. From the 1750 to 1799, let's say, so 1800. They all show the same thing. I have like about a whole collection of maps from that time frame. They all show the river here, and a settlement here, and a settlement here. In the book I acquired recently, Zacatecan Missionaries of Texas, they also mentioned Reynosa having a visita on this side. A visita was a place to where the missionaries would come and they would minister to the people that were in the rancherias on this side of the river. So the settlements absolutely included, not only today, but way before there was ever border patrol and immigration and all this nice stuff we have today. This is the community way out. And here, who else? What better reference for Texans and United States citizens to know that Esteban, as he is kind of blocked out here by the podium, Esteban Austin was a Mexican citizen who spoke Spanish fluently. And he drew in his maps. This was an only map he made. There's no Santander, nothing. And Laredo's here, so that means we're down here. I like this map because it shows travel routes. And I made a little quick thing that there's no sign of Highway 281. One, because of our language. Thank you. George Lopez has a tough job. Oops, wrong direction. All right, so to sum it up, the Escandon did leave Querétaro, but those settlers that he did leave with that weren't in the numbers of thousands, they settled the villages that were most closer to Querétaro and in South Nuevo Santander. And the colony was founded by the Spanish Crown. Las Maria de la Garza Paibon, he's one of my personal heroes because we didn't have too many from that time period. But Carlos Cantú and this guy, they definitely qualified. There was a lot of poor families, and the villages were already located on both south and north sides. We'll move forward at this point to the book, Reynosa, the main topic today. And for this section of the presentation, try to go through it a little bit quicker than the first part, because it's self-explanatory. And thank you for those who have already bought the book. Show you a little bit about the front cover, the guide and the names, how they're structured, a little bit of what I call fun facts, some statistical extracts, and then the main part, our heroes, people who got married, yes, descendants of the original settlers. Here's the cover. Here are the people I mentioned in the book. They wrote the book. I just extracted the information. I don't want to put that I authored the book. It's actually called Libro de Matrimonios, and their names are on here all over the place. Here's the most famous one, of course, Nicolás Fahim. He's the South Padre I looked at. The guide, yeah, the guide. The guide is, this is from the electronic version. If you have it, if you have the print book, it's set up to be very similar to understand. In this section, everything in blue refers to the groom, everything in pink refers to the bride, and the casta is in green, meaning they're I'm going to call it perceived social caste, because who knows? And then red are notes. In this particular, this isn't in the actual file, but it's in this particular image. I have to recognize I misspelled something there. Oops. But that's only here. It's not in the book, and it's not in the book. All right. The fun facts. I just listed 3 names that came to my mind as I was putting this together. Jose Matias Gomez, Mariano Lina, Silverio Berridi. I think that's the way to say that. I'm not sure. There's la ahogada, that means the drowned person, victim. El regaño means that there was a scolding, and of course the guy says, okay, that doesn't sound like fun. So maybe that part should be interesting. I'll tell you a little bit. Jose Matias Gomez, his name appears in so many marriage records. I said, okay, this guy has to be connected to the church. But independently, in another set of records and research I was doing, I ran across him as a witness. It told exactly who he was, where he was from, and what he was doing there. Jose Matias Gomez was the notary public. So he was the one writing a lot of the entries that the priest would come in and sign on. And he was from Cerralbo, and he ended up getting married in this marriage book. So if you are a Gomez or know the Gomez, you might be a descendant of Jose Matias Gomez. Mariano Lina, the reason he's there is because, and again, most of the marriages in this particular book were conducted by a friar named Agustin Lira. And I said, well, Lira, that's not that common a name. Let me see what I can find out. I looked, Mariano Lira, again, he comes out so many times as a witness. And he gets married in the book. And it says where he's from. It says he's from Zacatecas. So I thought, okay, this guy he's definitely connected to the priest somehow, because the priests come from Zacatecas. That's speculation, but I think it's fair to say we now have a little bit more knowledge about him. Then we have Silverio. Silverio, his name is spelled about 10 different ways, his last name is. And his first name, the little b changes to a v depending on who's writing. But he is a recent arrival. If it's not him, it's his parents. He is closer to Spanish lineage than most of the people in this particular book of facts, as you will. Okay, the next slide shows you, we'll see this a little later maybe, but a regaño refers to what I'm calling the bishop's holy scolding. Within the text of the book, the priest, the bishop from Nuevo León comes in, and he gets mad. You can tell by his writing. He's saying, Mr. Agustin Lina, we are accepting your book, and I'll loosely translate here, but he gets to the part where he says, you need to stop marrying people from other locations without them being cleared by the churches where they're coming from. And then the people that you do marry here, you need to find out about them, because they seem to be, because of the ignorance of their parents, resulta que los hijos sean tan estúpidos que en los misterios de nuestra fe. They're not well instructed in our faith. And you need to, before you keep marrying people, make sure you get that part. So I thought, hey, that's a different note than most marriage books have, so there it is in this section. I'll show you some stats here. They're not in the book. I can send you a copy of the slides, or if you're interested in this kind of stuff, please email me. Copy my email at the end of the presentation. The stats, here the marriages conducted by the priest. Mr. Rita did the most, Bai did the least. Bai, though, ended up, some of the marriages that he does conduct here, it already shows that they're over here in Matrimonios. It already shows that they're at, what was it called? San Juan de los Esteros is what the marriage record says. Well, that's what became Congregación del Refugio, which became Matrimonios, which became a lot of the people who now live in Cameron County. So, he only appears this many times in the book, but he got busy in Matrimonios, that's what. All right, the years, the first year on record and the last year on record show low numbers. That's because of the start. It just happened that way, right? But look at all these other years. They're pretty consistent. So this one peaks. But in 1802, can anyone tell me why 1802 had a low number? This is my conjecture. I think it's pretty safe, and you might agree with me. 1802 is when they experienced the horrific flood, June 26th to July 4th. They were inundated. They moved after many years of wanting to. They finally moved from their original settlement to the Lomas de San Antonio, the hill where the plaza is now. That's why I believe that so few marriages got recorded there, because they were busy with, you know, Mother Nature. Not the Mother Nature from the internet. All right. When did they marry? January. Look at that number. Why January? Right? Isn't that what happened to June as being the first third of the month? These are the highest consecutive numbers. And then look, on Mondays, through a little bit of database coding, I was able to get the dates to display what day of the week it was. Yes, sir. But I was looking for, I was thinking Saturday. I was thinking que el sábado, ¿no? De todas maneras me sorprendió.
Porque solo casaban los domingos, for the most part.
Not in the 1790s.
Not in the 1790s.
For whatever reason. But somewhere, somehow, these little clues are what put together the stories that, you know, that evolve into family history. So that's why I included them. But, you know, and some people like stats, like me. I was able to extract this information as well. Here we go with the main the prestige category, of course, was being labeled in Espanol. People that were labeled Espanol weren't necessarily Espanol. Or if they were Espanol, they weren't necessarily, what do you call it? Pure Espanol? The DNA stats, I'll share this is separate. The DNA stats that I get, many of us get from Crispin Rendon, he says 75% of the parental lines are European, 75% of the maternal lines are indigenous from the get-go. All right. So if you don't fall in that category, I mean, if you fall in that category, you're not this. Nevertheless, this is the labels that were used. Mestizo, they even went as far as saying mulatto esclavo. Okay, so 3 of them were labeled like that. And
what's coyote?
Coyote, I believe, I didn't try to learn exactly, but once you have a mestizo, if that mestizo married an indio, that was a coyote. Right? So, now here's what gets me. And I'll use Zamora as an example, one of my favorite colonization people. Zamora comes in listed as a mulatto. Right? Now he's already mulatto, which means half European and half indigenous. No, I said that wrong. Half African. Right? So, but then it says that his daughter is a mulatto. But the mother is not. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't match up. The daughter, to be a mulata, has to come from a white and a black parent. But she's already coming from a mulata, so that's why it's so inconsistent, but still interesting. to have this information. Yes, sir?
Y otras ocasiones, ese nombre lo ponía el sacerdote por el color que veía,
Por el color.
sin estar cierto si era o no mulato. Él lo veía moreno y es mulato.
Sí.
No tenía que ser.
Right.
Y el sacerdote que era.
O por hacerle el favor a alguien le ponía, pues tú eres español.
Ah, pero
You could be considered a Spaniard by your customs, by your parents who said, you know, make him that, do us the favor because we need him to be in this class instead of that class.
Sure.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
great-grandfather, Nicolás Zamora, on the census was Pardo. What does that mean?
Okay, Pardo. See, no, the Zamoras come in with all different descriptions. Of Pardo, I believe, you guys know this better than me, so. But I believe is a mulatto who marries a white person. So it's like a third African. Now, we'll get to another part later, which is all of this, a lot of this can be enhanced by DNA. So we'll take it. Let's look at that information. Here is I made another extraction of information. This is why that belong, by the way, some of them been off the street. Grooms were from Reynosa, where it was indicated. Brides were from Reynosa mainly. After that, we have Camargo. After that, we have, oh, by the way, 1802. Maybe they went to Camargo to get married. Maybe that's for you researching Reynosa ancestors. Well, they weren't getting married in Reynosa. Maybe they got married in Camargo. And they would say vecino de Reynosa. So, one of my ancestors, and my cousin is here from Nago. I want to thank him for coming here. Thank you, Art. We have an ancestor from Santa Fernando. And because of the information that comes in the book, we're able to now extend that family line. So only 4 people were listed from, the grooms were listed from being over there. The other big one was still coming from Monterrey. All right. Average ages, the men whose ages were listed, the average was 26 and a half. The average for the females was 18. If you apply a little bit more of math on this and use what they call the standard deviation, you can get a range of ages, and you will, instead of taking what some people call what I call a wild guess S or something like that, you can get a statistical range of this person had to have been born between this age, between this year and this year. And you won't come up with things like he was born in 1748 and got married in 1751, which I've seen. Other information that's available because of the ages. Now there's an absence of information for these villas, right? But because of the ages, we can now backtrack and say we have births that we didn't know about before that are taking place. Especially where it says not only their age but where they're from. So all these people are listed with their ages, and we now have a birth year for them. Not kind of cool. All right. And the other information that's easy to extract. Anyone that wants this kind of information, please get a hold of me. I don't know why you would want it, but you might if you're doing research. Deaths, burials, widows, ranches. That's one of the areas where a lot of people say, I want to know what ranch my ancestor was from. Dispensas, a lot of people are listed in here as being dispensados, which means they were related to each other. And we now have another clue in our genealogy to say, hey, there's Villarreal, we're married in Hinojosa, they're related, so we gotta find that common link. I'm gonna ask Moses Garza, who is here today as well, to open the PDF file, and we'll do a quick run of the e-version of this. I think it's open in the second window over there. There it is. It's going to do the same. You probably have to reopen it. What's this? I'm looking at my slides here on my phone. I'm not checking my email.
Which one is it, that one?
It is that one, yes, sir. Okay, so this is if you buy a book today, I'm emailing you the PDF version of it, which is this. And the way it works is after the cover, if you scroll down to the next section, you're going to reach a part that said, there's a guide that I showed earlier. You're going to reach a part right there, just stop please. If you click on Appendix A, we'll get it going now. Appendix A is a list of names that are included with a variation of spellings, so you don't get sidetracked too much and say, I didn't find my name. Well, here's a way for you to straighten out the different ways that they made the spelling. If you, one second please. If you click up there where it says, up there, yes, right there, where it says, búsqueda de apellidos. It takes you to the name index, and here is on one side all the grooms and the brides, and on the other side all the brides and the grooms. That is a very, I did it this way because I've done a lot of research and I said I want to make it easy for people to find the ancestor. And I haven't seen an easier index than this one. If you click on any of those names, let's go to, anyone have a name that they want, that they know is on there that they want to look for?
Cayetano Medrano.
Which one?
Cayetano Medrano.
Cayetano Medrano. Well, okay, he's awesome. Now that I know who he is. Okay. Cayetano Medrano there it is. Up here. Very nice. Cayetano got married. Look where he gets married. Rancho Juan. I think I should have said San. I put it the way it appeared to me. But San Juan de los Esteros. That's the Matamoros area. Guess where his descendants are found now if you look through the records. They're in Brownsville. They're in Matamoros. So this is a good way to connect back. Is he married to, oh, okay, it's by Davila. So again, that's how easy it is to find an ancestor. It includes where, look, he's from San Fernando. He's another person from San Fernando. You can find his Medrano line by going to the San Fernando records, which are already available in the libraries. The most valuable part of the book is the fact that it links you to the original images. The original images, this is, if you click on this link, if we have internet access here, if you click on it, 0348, if you click on it, please, and allow. It will take you right to the repository where the images are located and hosted by someone that services the University of Texas Pan American Special Pledges. Now, this is to get you to the site, to get to the image. It was 34A. You have to remember that number. You scroll up, or if you click this tab here where it says contents, you can get it without all the images, or you can do like you're doing. He's already going to 34A. And there it is. When you click on that, you now have the original Cayetano Medrano. This is available without the book, but I've used, I'm going to say it's been 6 years looking at these records one way or another, and I could never decipher them until I said, okay, I have to do this to where other people can make it easier. So I can make it easier for other people. He's right at the bottom of the record. Is that correct? There's Cayetano. And when I released the book, the person who's interested in his name, of all the records, somebody says, you put that he was a mestizo and he's an Espanol. Oh, no, let me go back and look. But look, I'm sharing this now, right? It says Cayetano, and then it says May, right? And by this time, I'm only extracting the caste information. And I didn't recognize that it was his last name. And down here it says Españoles for both of them. So I corrected it. The book is now has the correct beauty of digital publishing. All right. So we could, everybody see how easy it is? Any questions on that part? To get to the records. All right. And thank you for the name.